You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
He goes on and says we are dismayed that the committees have chosen not to join us in seeking resolution from the judicial branch
trial
of this
kicks off today. This is Trump's attorney, Pat Cipollone. So let's go hear who he has to say.
Not to pursue through subpoena the testimony of Dr. Kupperman and Ambassador Bolton. Let the record be clear. That is the House's decision, and they made that decision. They never subpoenaed Ambassador Bolton. They didn't try to call him in the House, and they withdrew the subpoena for Charles Kupperman before the judge could rule, and they asked that the case be mooted. And now they come here and they ask you to issue a subpoena for John Bolton. It's not right. I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Sekulow.
Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Senate, the manager just said facts are a stubborn thing. Let me give you some facts. It's from the transcripts. Ambassador Sondland actually testified unequivocally that the president did not tie aid to investigations. Instead, that he acknowledged any leak he had suggested was based entirely on his own speculation, unconnected to any conversation with the president. Here's the question. What about the aid? Ambassador Volker says that they were tied, that the aid was not tied. Answer, I didn't say that they were conclusively tied either. I said I was presuming it. Question, okay, and so the president never told you they were tied. Answer, that is correct. Question, so your testimony and Ambassador Volker's testimony is consistent, and the president did not tie investigations, aid to investigations. Answer, that is correct. Ambassador Sondland also testified that he asked President Trump directly about these issues.
Oh, y'all, Donald Trump's lawyers are trying all they can not to see witnesses called before the United States Senate. I wonder why. Ambassador John Bolton has made it perfectly clear that if he is subpoenaed, he will indeed come. Now, remember, this is the same John Bolton who said that if the House subpoenaed him, he would only comply if a federal judge ruled that he should do so. Donald Trump can continue to exert executive privilege on people who actually used to work for him, don't work for him, some folks who never worked for him. They also are claiming now national security is also tied to all of this as well. So you got to ask the question, what in the heck is going on? Joining us today is Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for the Environmental Justice EPA, Mellie Abdul, Republican strategist, and Kelly Bethea, you don't want without a hat, communication strategist. Matter of fact, I might put my hat on since, you know, I was listening because I came from inside, damn it. I don't need to inside. No need for it. Mustafa, I'll start with you. It is interesting to listen again to Donald Trump's lawyers as they talk very loudly, as they you know, yell and scream, and they criticize the House process, and they say, they go through everything, but they really don't deal with exactly what Trump did. And then they say that, well, the aid was eventually released, but you still held it up because you wanted Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. So this whole idea of, well, the crime didn't fully go through, so therefore there really was no crime. Isn't that why they have attempted murder? You didn't actually kill somebody, but your damn show tried to.
You raise a good point, because this is like a bad mob movie where the fix is in. You know, they get that wink and the nod. So you got Mitch McConnell as the judge who's already been paid off. You know, you got, they tell you, you know, even Trump probably said to him, well, you know, they got some stuff for him, and they're like, don't worry about it. You know, they got some witnesses, don't worry about it, we already got it taken care of. And it just plays out like that. So they know that if they actually have to allow real witnesses to come forward, Bolton and others, and share what they know, then it's going to make it much tougher for the country not to say that the president is, you know, in a situation where he may need to be impeached.
So it really is interesting, Kelly, to listen. I mean, I was laughing pretty much earlier today, listening to Trump's attorneys go on and on and on about how this is a colossal waste of time, how it's ridiculous, you know, and you know, and then Trump tweeted, you know, read the transcripts, all caps. We did. When the fact of the matter is, we did not actually get. They said that he lifted the security clearance to allow us to see the transcripts. No, actually, it wasn't a full transcript of the phone call. It was actually an edited one. And that, to me, is also, I think, what is pretty funny as you watch them go through all this and act as if Trump literally did nothing.
I mean, when they act like they say it's a waste of time, whatever, in my opinion, the only reason it could possibly be a waste of time is because we have a majority Republican Senate, of which the leader of said party within the Senate already said what he was going to do and is already biased on the side of Trump. So in a sense, he's right. It is a waste of time because in a way we already know what's going to happen in that they are not necessarily going to convict him of a crime that, from what we've seen of the hearings on the House side, he is liable for. He very well may be guilty of. It's not right, and it's a disservice to the country for, you know, straight up senators, U.S. senators who were elected to not only uphold the Constitution, but protect the interests of their constituents in their respective states, to literally just say, no, I'm not going to do my job. I'm not going to hold the president liable for something that literally put our country at risk.
Okay, I'm really confused here, Mellie, because on one hand, Trump's attorneys say he didn't get due process in the House. His attorney wasn't allowed in. They stood in front of the senators and said that the Democrats conducted depositions in a Schiff. Republicans couldn't attend, even though 100 members of the House attended, including Republicans. Then they say that this is not how a trial is conducted, how a case is conducted. But I don't recall ever seeing a trial that did not have witnesses, that did not have even the introduction of new evidence. So I'm trying to figure out which one do they want us to believe? And so it's like, this is not really how a trial is conducted. No, this is not how it should be conducted, but we really want this way our trial is being done. And then, of course, they talk about what took place by the House, but the House was actually using the exact same rules that Republicans wrote. So how do you complain about the rules your party wrote?
So we're back at process. I've said this on the show before when Democrats were accusing Republicans of arguing about the process. These are more process arguments. Now,
right, not exactly what he did, because they don't want to actually address that. They want to argue about process.
Well, the only thing they have to deal with really is the articles of impeachment, the obstruction of Congress article and the abuse of power article. I mean, those are the two articles. Now, I do want to say, as far as the phone call, just to point this out, and I've heard people make this argument before, the transcripts that we have are the transcripts that have existed for every other security issue across the board. I mean, there's nothing inconsistent with how these transcripts were released or even the editing that went on from the four people with extemporaneous notes on that.
My understanding is that we didn't even get the transcripts. We got a memo.
But that's consistent with process across the board.
No, hold up, wait, no. What Donald Trump said and what his people said is you're going to get a complete transcript of what was said on the call. What was provided was not a complete transcript. As Kelly said, it was indeed a memo. So it doesn't matter what other people did. They said, we're going to release the actual transcript. Now, what a transcript is, like for instance, if there's a transcript of this show, the transcript is exactly what was said from beginning to end, not we left a few things out, we left these things out. And then even the actual transcript that they released, which was a memo, you do not see in that transcript Trump bringing up corruption in Ukraine, which he said he did.
So again, this is the same process as far as the release.
No, you're not. But you're not answering what I just said. They said, quote,
Donald Trump said, right? And you're correct.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
No. Donald Trump and his administration. They said they were going to release a verbatim transcript of the call. That's not what they released.
Well, I don't know if they actually said verbatim, but if they said that they would...
They did.
But releasing a transcript of the call, let's go back to that, which is how all of this started, where people started criticizing the administration. I remember watching, it wasn't just Fox News, but there were people who know the process who said that the process for those documents being the transcript that we initially heard, the initial transcript of the call that we heard, that is a consistent process. Nothing about that process right there has changed.
But what's not consistent is a president asking a foreign entity in order to investigate a political rival.
Yeah.
And
that's
what's also not consistent is for a president to lie and say, oh, I asked him about Ukrainian corruption, yet in the transcript that they even released, there's no mention of him asking about Ukrainian corruption.
Right. So despite having the full transcript that Trump said that...
Or the full truth.
Or full truth, full transcript that Trump said that we would have, they filed their articles of impeachment anyway. So absent... but I'm saying absent those, the transcript, absent any of the documents that I heard today, Senate Republicans said that they wanted, they filed articles of impeachment against the president.
First of all, the Senate Republicans, they did not say...
I'm sorry, not Republicans.
Yes,
I mean Democrats.
And why, why did Senator Chuck Schumer put forth that motion?
Because the Trump administration has not released those documents.
So if the administration withholds documents, then they assert executive privilege.
But they didn't actually, and I actually learned that today. I thought that they did. The administration actually never exerted executive privilege because the House never actually subpoenaed those documents.
First of all, Donald Trump exerted executive privilege over over his former White House counsel Don McGahn testifying. Right. The Democrats went to court. The judge ruled that the executive privilege did not apply to Don McGahn. Right. They did exert executive privilege.
Sorry, with Don McGahn, you're correct. They definitely did with Don McGahn. But you mentioned John Bolton. John Bolton is another one of those that Democrats did not actually issue John Bolton a subpoena. John Bolton did say that if he were subpoenaed, that he was going to take that to court. Now he's saying that he's willing to testify. As I said on your show last week, and I'll continue to say...
No. What he said is if the Senate calls witnesses. Now he's willing to testify, but he wouldn't say that in the House. Those are the games being played. Really.
But both sides are playing games. I mean, we can now admit now that we see how people are responding to the House impeachment versus the Senate trial that's coming up, we can kind of see that people are making the similar argument about process arguments.
No, they're not. Because actually, if you look at polling data, Mustafa,
we don't have to worry about polling data.
One second. 70% of Americans say witnesses should be called by the United States Senate.
I'm one of those.
7% of Americans. But the reality, Mustafa, Republicans do not want to do that because they do not want to hear what those witnesses like Leah Parnas, like John Bolton, are actually going to say.
Well, yeah, because we know what they're going to say.
No, we don't know what John Bolton is going to say.
We might not know what John Bolton's going to say, but
we know the other guy.
We know how many people were blocked.
If we don't know what John Bolton's going to say, why is Donald Trump fighting so hard to keep him from testifying?
Right.
Well, if John Bolton was going to go before the United States Senate and the country and the world and testify that Donald Trump did absolutely nothing wrong, that he was in the clear, it was perfectly legitimate, I doubt they will be fighting this hard.
John Bolton also has a book coming out, too. So
I understand that. But the bottom line is here. John Bolton will be testifying under oath.
Yeah, he will. And we don't know what he will say.
Mustafa, go ahead.
Yeah, there needs to be transparency. Yeah. It's amazing how when everyday citizens find themselves in a situation, people will say, well, why don't you just tell the truth? Why don't you just come and share what happened? And we don't follow the same things when it comes to the president, this president. And we've got to make sure that there's actually real accountability and transparency in the process, and we need to hear from folks. And then allow the American public, along with the Senate, who has to do its job, to make the decisions if they feel like the president is guilty or not.
Hold tight, Congressman. Hold tight. Congressman Adam Schiff is now speaking before the United States Senate. Go, please.
He never brings up corruption except the corruption he wants to bring about. It doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take Albert Einstein to add 2 + 2. It equals 4. In this case, it equals guilt. Now, you're going to have 16 hours to ask questions. You're going to have 16 hours. That's a long time to ask questions. Wouldn't you like to be able to ask about the documents in that 16 hours? Would you like to be able to say, counsel for the president, what did Mick Mulvaney mean when he emailed so-and-so and said such and such? What's your explanation for that? Because that seems to be pretty damning evidence of exactly what the House is saying here. What's your explanation of that, Mr. Sekulow? What's your explanation? Wouldn't you like to be able to ask about the documents? Or ask the House, Mr. Schiff, what about this text message? Doesn't that suggest such as what the president is arguing? Wouldn't you like to be able to ask me that question or my colleagues? I think you would. I think you should. But the backwards way this resolution is drafted, you get 16 hours to ask questions about documents you've never seen. And then you know what's more? If you do decide at that point after the trial is essentially over that you do want to see the documents after all, and the documents are produced, you don't get another 16 hours. You don't get 16 minutes. You don't get 16 seconds to ask about those documents. Does that make any sense to you? Does that make any sense at all? I'll tell you something I'd like to know that may be in the documents. You probably heard more about the 3 amigos. My colleagues mentioned 2 of the 3 amigos. Amigo Volker and Amigo Sondland. These are 2 of the 3 people that the president put in charge of Ukraine policy. The 3rd amigo is Secretary Rick Perry, the former Secretary of Energy. Well, we know from Amigo Sondland's testimony that he was certainly in the loop and knew exactly all about this scheme. And we know from Ambassador Volker's testimony and his text messages and his WhatsApps that amigo was in the loop. What about the 3rd amigo? Wouldn't you like to know if the 3rd amigo was in the loop? Now, as my colleagues will explain, when we get to the Department of Energy records, that, well, surprisingly, we didn't get those either. But any communication between the Department of Energy and the Department of State is covered by this amendment. Wouldn't you like to know? Don't you think the American people have a right to know what the 3rd amigo knew about this scheme? I'd like to know. I think you should be able to ask questions about it in your 16 hours. At the end of the day, I guess I'll finish with something Mr. Sekulow said. He said, this was a dangerous moment because we're trying to rush through this somehow. It is a dangerous moment, but we're not trying to rush through this trial. We're actually trying to have a real trial here. It's the president that's trying to rush through this. And I have to tell you that whatever you decide here, maybe this is wasted breath and maybe it's already decided, but whatever you decide here, I don't know who the next president's going to be. Maybe it'll be someone in this chamber. But I guarantee you this, whoever that next president is, whether they did something right or they did something wrong, there's going to come a time where you in this body are going to want to subpoena that president and that administration. You're going to want to get to the bottom of serious allegations. Are you prepared to say that that president can simply say, I'm going to fight all subpoenas? Are you prepared to say and accept that president saying, I have absolute immunity. You want me to come testify? Senator, you want me to come and testify? No. I have absolute immunity. You can subpoena me all you like. I'll see you in court. And when you get to court, I'm going to tell you, you can't see me in court. Are you prepared for that? That's what the future looks like. Don't think this is the last president. If you allow this to happen, that's going to allow this to take place.
Your time
Mr.
has
Justice,
expired.
I yield back. I thank you.
So Kelly, when you look at this whole process, first of all, Mitch McConnell initially proposed these rules, these ideas that what he wanted to go late into the night. Clearly, the Republicans met. They were like, "Are you out of your damn mind?" Because he wanted to try to extend this whole deal. So he had to change the rules. The rules are, first of all, they can't even have any food on the floor. They have to stay seated in their chairs, sort of like elementary school. They can only drink water. Or they can request milk. That's one of the things as well that they have to be able to do, which is all pretty interesting. But to listen to, again, the fact that you have United States Senate, Mitch McConnell, Republicans, don't want to confront that this man literally asked a foreign entity to investigate a political rival. And remember, Donald Trump is on record as saying he would ask a foreign entity's help again if they had dirt on a foreign rival. This man does not care about rules or the law. He will do whatever he wants to do to get reelected.
It's very ironic, though, because while the president doesn't necessarily believe in law and order, even in their bias, the Senate does. The Republican side of the Senate does. So what's happening is they are doing everything they can to make it look like there's law and order while acknowledging covertly, if anything, that the president doesn't care about that. It's like they need the pomp and circumstance. They need the order. They need the protocol in order for it to look legitimate, knowing that what the president did was not. And you know, as a regular citizen, you're asking yourself, like, well, why are they doing that? For what? And it's really just because the Republicans, Mitch McConnell and the like, I can't speak for every Republican, I'm not going to say that, but certainly the players in this particular game just want to maintain power. And they're literally doing it by any means necessary. And it's clear because you have literally a rogue president, and they're trying not even to control the rogue president, they're just trying to make it look like he's controllable by way of this not even impeachment hearing, but the trial itself. So they're keeping everything, you know, straight and narrow, trying to make it look legitimate, knowing that there's a rogue president, which is why they don't necessarily address his tweets, which is why they don't want anybody to speak at the trial, because that would thwart the objective of making this legitimate. So it's interesting to me. It's certainly ironic, but at the end of the day, ultimately, it's really sad that you would have people who, again, are supposed to have Americans' best interests at heart, not like deliberately, you know, doing the antithesis of what they took an oath to do on our behalf, that they would rather have a president who does not care about even them, to maintain his seat in the president's seat, to maintain that seat just for the sake of having a Republican there.
So let's just...
Mellie, does it not concern you, because first of all, you already said you could vote for Trump again. Does it not concern you that this man is on record as saying that he, without a doubt, would accept dirt on a foreign rival, dirt on a political opponent from a foreign government?
Yes.
But you would still vote for him?
Yes.
So you don't care that a president of the United States would break the law in accepting dirt from a foreign entity, interfering in the election.
Okay, but that hasn't happened yet.
No, excuse me. Donald Trump has said if a foreign entity had dirt on a political rival, he absolutely would accept it.
Yeah, but you're asking me to asking me to answer a hypothetical.
No.
Donald Trump said hypothetically, that's something that.
So for you,
and you asked me, would I have a problem with that?
So for you, your deal is, well, let me wait to see if it happens, and then I'll think about it?
Yeah. I mean, if it hasn't happened, so you're asking me.
Actually,
you're asking me would it would I continue to support Donald Trump because he said he would do something that he hasn't done. Now he hasn't actually done that. That's something that maybe we can look at that time, but that assumes that this particular issue is the only issue in which I would actually support any president, for that matter.
No, but
but how I feel about it, how I feel about what. If Donald Trump says that he's going to get dirt on an enemy or something like that, it actually has nothing to do with the articles of impeachment. So
it does. That's what he tried to do.
No, that's so.
He actually tried to get. He withheld aid from Ukraine because he wanted them to investigate Joe Biden. That's what he was.
Who happens to be his political rival. I personally think that
That's the point.
I personally think that whether Joe Biden was running or not, Donald Trump would have asked for that investigation.
Of who?
Of Joe Biden in Burisma.
Oh, come on.
I actually think that whether Joe Biden was running or not,
but that's
Joe
still
Biden
wrong.
And as I've said on this show many times before, that there was nothing perfect about the call. As I've said on this show.
No, hold up. But your boy Trump said it was a perfect call.
So you can ask Trump how he feels about that.
But that's the guy you're voting for. He said it was a perfect call. And it was an absolutely perfect call.
And so you can ask Donald Trump about that, but you've never seen me come on the show and actually defend that. And if anybody would like to point that out on any show that I've had, you actually can do that. So I can say again that I don't think that there was something perfect about that call. Whether or not this is something that warrants an impeachment is something that I disagree with. I think they should have gone the censure route as opposed to impeaching the President of the United States for something that Congress has determined is not a crime.
Well, I would think once.
Hold on.
What do you mean? What?
What?
That no article of impeachment actually deals with the crime. Or does it? No, I mean, you guys can answer it. I mean, which one of the two articles of impeachment deals with the crime?
Mustafa, go ahead.
I mean, for me, this is high crimes and misdemeanors because it places our country in a very difficult position. Mm-hmm. When you are leveraging resources to get what you want out of a situation. A president should never be in this situation. And what the president has done now is that he's created this gravitational pull where he has damaged the people who are around him. So now there is also a look that needs to be at Vice President Pence, who supposedly has known also about some of the things that are going on. No, I'm telling you who one of the folks who wants to be a witness has shared with folks, who went on CNN, who went on a number of other shows and shared with folks. And it doesn't stop there. Now, that's why we need to have an honest trial where folks are allowed to come forward and share the information and folks can take a look.
But who said they're not, though? What McConnell said is the same thing that I actually said on the show last week. They're going to follow the process where they're going to have both sides come in and present their arguments, and then they're going to consider. Well, that's literally what they said all day.
No, you're wrong. What they said is not. Is that what they said? When you just heard Schiff talk about 16 hours.
Schiff.
Yes. When you heard Schiff, what you heard them talk about there was you heard them talking about them going forth and opening arguments. That's what they said. So what's going to happen is they're going to present opening arguments.
Okay.
Then, after opening arguments, they may say, move to close.
Right, they may.
But
that's exactly what I just said.
So they're not going to have a trial. They're going to have opening arguments.
Okay, well, second part then. So the first part will be that both sides get to present their arguments. Then they will consider, as part of that second part, not only whether or not they're going to be able to submit written questions for some of the witnesses, but whether or not they're going to have additional witnesses come testify. Well, but that's literally what they said on the floor today. That's literally what McConnell said, is that on the second part, that they would then consider whether or not they're going to, and they've said it right in front of Justice Roberts, whether or not they're going to bring witnesses, submit questions, or whether or not they're going to bring additional witnesses. We don't know if that's going to happen. My guess is maybe outside of John Bolton, if you have him at all. I don't think you're going to probably get the CNN guy that you mentioned. I don't think.
What witnesses have been called, though?
Well, everybody that testified during the actual House hearing.
And they're actually going to testify.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's.
Because that's my concern.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're actually if there is a need for those who testified to actually come back.
It's a trial. Yes, they need to testify.
But I'm within the length of time that the Senate actually talked about today, I don't suspect that they're going to have all of those witnesses.
And that's the problem, because that is a rule that they imposed so that they couldn't be able to.
But why not call them if you need them?
What do you mean? It's a trial, Mellie. It's a trial. You need witnesses in a trial.
But they've already voted for impeachment in the House.
That's irrelevant.
So how is that? But
the impeachment, the articles of impeachment came to the Senate. It is the Senate's job to have a trial.
And they're going to have
an opening argument,
yes,
questions, and a closing argument. You can't question nobody if ain't nobody there.
Well, we don't know if they're going to bring. I mean, how many times I have to keep repeating that?
They made it clear they ain't bringing witnesses.
We don't know if they're going to bring additional witnesses there or not.
It's not additional witnesses. It's witnesses, period.
Well, John Bolton. Not even one.
That's what I'm saying.
Not additional. Not even one.
But we don't even know if they're going to do that. So to assume.
We know they're not going to do that.
But you don't know that because that's not what they said.
But
that's literally not what they said.
Here's what we
so tell me, who is the person who said that we're not going to call any witnesses at all?
Lindsey Graham.
What Republican?
Mitch McConnell.
What Republican on that floor today said we are not going to call?
It doesn't matter what happened today.
But so if it doesn't matter what they said at the start of the hearing, how does the rest of the stuff matter?
Because it's already been established.
But
so you're assuming
this is
truly.
We know what the country.
This is like a Mad TV skit.
It is because you guys don't want to listen.
We know what the country is asking.
You were sitting here just acting as if everything they've said for the last 2 weeks just didn't exist.
I'm talking about today. We're talking about what happened today. Not 2 weeks ago. We're talking about what they said.
We can close this out. We can close this out because we know what the country is asking for.
Yeah.
They are asking for there to be a fair trial with witnesses.
They asked for that in the House, too.
And that is both
whether or not that actually is true.
That is both Democrats and Republicans.
And they asked for the same thing in the House.
And how about this here? The White House Budget Office violated the law when it froze U.S. military aid to Ukraine, according to the Government Accountability Office.
The same GAO, who I think it was about 7 instances where they said that the Obama administration broke the law, and they did the same thing with George Bush. So just so everybody knows out there, the GAO, they're valid. The things that they say are valid, but just know that the Obama administration,
they're valid?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a valid group. I'm not trying to discredit the Government Accountability Office because they exist for a reason.
Your party is totally discredited them.
And the GAO, as I'm saying, the GAO, if you go back and look, there's plenty of evidence there. The GAO, there were several instances during the Obama administration where the GAO said that they actually went against government regulation. So,
stop.
Law.
Stop. Hold on. Which is it?
Law.
Regulation or law?
Law.
And what was that?
There were several instances that I can actually.
What were they?
Well, I'll pull them up through a break or something, Roland, because I don't know all 7.
Can you cite one?
Well, no.
You said there's 7.
Well, no, I said there's 7 because that's exactly what I researched.
Okay,
I don't know who they are.
Give me one.
But what I will do during the break is actually look some of those up.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying because that's something I'm willing to actually back up on air.
Kelly, what's real interesting here again, the Republican Party does not want witnesses. The Republican Party,
so we're back to
Republican Party does not truly want to find out exactly what happened. What they want is to quickly shut this down, vote to free Donald Trump, and get on with it. That's what their goal is. Their own attorney said, "Why are we doing this? There's an election in November." Wow. Okay.
And that's what I was saying. In the beginning, again, they are doing this for the purpose of pomp and circumstance, for the purpose of protocol, for the purpose of saying that they did it. It's like, oh, we followed the rules. Oh, we had a trial. That's what they want it to look like so that, at the end of the day, they can say, oh, well, we tried. Mm-hmm. But they didn't try. There are several loopholes here. There are several things wrong with this, trial. Mainly the fact that it's not going to really be one. It's you have opening argument, you have closing argument. That's the only 2 things that are established that are going to happen. This is not moot court. This is not an appellate level court in which you don't have
But it's
witnesses.
not even a criminal trial. It's not a criminal trial.
Hold up. Stop. So if it's not a criminal trial, why does your party keep trying to use criminal precedent for what took place here?
The same reason that both sides are.
No. You didn't answer my question. What I'm saying is, what you have here is you have Republicans, including Trump's attorneys,
Making criminal. Absolutely.
trying to equate a criminal trial with an impeachment trial when you can't compare those two.
Because that's exactly what has happened since the impeachment hearings actually started, even in the House. It was the same argument. This isn't like a new argument that people are making when they were saying that this isn't a criminal prosecution.
And that was the but again.
So, but I can't speak for.
No. So when Trump's lawyers stand up there and say, well, we didn't get to cross-examine witnesses in the House.
Criticize them for it.
No. There is no. You don't get to cross-examine.
Criticize them for it.
I'm not done. You don't get to cross-examine, quote, witnesses in the House because that's not a trial.
Right.
The House proceedings operates essentially the same way a grand jury does. In a grand jury, you do not get to have your lawyer sitting in the grand jury room. You do not get to cross-examine witnesses. That is the purpose of the trial. But they're saying that that's what happened in the I mean, we heard the Representative Doug Collins and all of them yell and scream, Jim Jordan, all of them. So which is it? Is this actually a constitutional process or is it a criminal trial? Which one is it? Because see, now even Alan Dershowitz, who now is changing his tune, I said, oh no, I was wrong 22 years ago when I said that no crime had to actually be committed in order for a president to be impeached. Now he's saying that one of Trump's lawyers, he's even saying that even if the president did all of this, you still can't impeach him. So which one is it?
And that's his opinion. He's a scholar. He can be criticized that for just like the constitutional scholars.
No, I'm asking you, which one is it?
Well, you have to ask him about that.
No, I'm asking you.
Well, it's a constitutional process that is definitely political. It's not a criminal process that we have here. But I have those 7 instances if you would like for me to read them.
Okay, I said ask for one. Give me one.
This was the Obama administration violated Section 503 of the Consolidated Security, Disaster Assistance, and Continuing Appropriations Act.
What was that? What did they do?
In 1909, after the Secret Service reported...
No. What did they do? Not 1909. What did they do?
That the Secret Service reported they had overspent on candidate protection in 2008 by $5,100,000. And use the money from another program to cover the shortfall. So DHS failed to notify Congress 15 days in advance of the reprogramming.
Okay,
so the GAO said that there was something wrong that the Obama administration had done.
So they used money from one. They did not notify Congress within 15 days. They were using money from one pot to use another area.
That seems to sum up what I've read thus far.
So reconciling a budget is a high crime and misdemeanor.
No, but that's not a high crime and misdemeanor according to the GAO.
That's my point.
According to the GAO that you guys were just high-fiving, according to the GAO, they were in violation.
Let's be clear. I wasn't high-fiving. I was stating what they said. Go ahead,
This was the Department of Homeland Security. That was
Obama's administration.
But that was not President Obama. We are talking about President Trump and the decision
that was Obama's
he
administration.
Made. But we're talking about
something that Trump did.
Right.
He was
President Trump picked up the phone.
Hello,
he picked up the phone.
Let me kick you a little further, buddy. Okay, whatever you guys say. I mean, if it works for
you. He was on the phone.
Come on,
now we're separating the Department of Homeland Security from the administration.
No, we're not.
I worked for almost 25 years in the federal government.
I've worked in federal government too, so I know how it works.
Exactly, and you do know how it works. So
yeah, but it was the Obama administration.
If an agency or an agency head does something, they are responsible for that action.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
We are talking about the President of the United States. So if Barack Obama had picked up the phone and done something illegal, then yes, he should have. If folks decided to pull him up on charges or wanted to investigate, that's fine.
Well, unfortunately, the GAO...
I'm sorry, brother. Just give me 1 second. We are talking about President Trump.
Yes.
Intentionally picking up the telephone. No one made him pick up the telephone, made the call, and tried to coerce the individual, allegedly, to do something, or you won't get this money. He made that decision.
And within 90 minutes of the phone call,
right,
the Pentagon was notified, freeze the money within 90 minutes. But they said there was no connection between those two.
Right.
Yeah,
Really?
Fair point, but again, it's the same GAO. So the GAO doesn't distinguish between the Department of Homeland Security and the Obama administration.
Well, luckily the GAO
this
is not
something-
the only one who has a problem with what the president did.
Well, there was six other
Oh,
instances on here, too.
remember, the GAO said that, but it was a Trump Department of Justice who also said, oh, no, nothing really happened here,
Right.
so no need to actually investigate.
Right.
And then that's why the House did what they did, because William Barr said, oh, nothing actually happened here. He cleared. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.